I met Stephanie on the first day of 6th grade. She was the new girl, sitting alone at lunch with her sandwich untouched, looking like she might cry. I walked over and asked if she wanted to sit with me. That simple act of kindness started a friendship that would last 7 years. We became inseparable, sleepovers every weekend, matching bracelets, shared secrets whispered at midnight. She was my sister in everything but blood. When my parents divorced, Stephanie held me while I cried. When her grandmother died, I stayed by her side through the funeral. We promised we'd be best friends forever, that nothing could ever come between us. I believed that promise with my whole heart. I trusted her completely. That trust was the biggest mistake of my life. Because Stephanie had a secret, one so dark and twisted that when I finally discovered it, my entire world shattered. And when I exposed that secret, everything changed. It started during our senior year of high school. Stephanie had always been popular, but that year something shifted. She became almost obsessed with status, with being admired, with controlling how people saw her. She started dating Austin, the captain of the basketball team. He was good-looking and charming, everything a high school girl supposedly wanted. I was happy for her at first. Austin seemed nice enough, always polite when we hung out. But I noticed small things that bothered me. The way Stephanie changed her opinions to match his. How she'd cancel our plans if Austin wanted to see her. The way she stopped talking about her dreams of becoming a veterinarian and started talking about whatever Austin was interested in. "You're losing yourself," I told her one afternoon in her bedroom. Stephanie laughed it off. "I'm just being a good girlfriend, Naomi. You wouldn't understand because you've never been in love." Her words stung, but I let it go. 3 months into their relationship, I noticed bruises on Stephanie's arms. "What happened?" I asked, pointing at the purple marks. She pulled her sleeve down quickly. "Nothing. I'm just clumsy lately." But the bruises kept appearing. On her wrists. On her upper arms. Once, I saw a faint mark on her neck that she tried to cover with makeup. I confronted her directly. "Is Austin hurting you?" Stephanie's eyes went cold. "Don't be ridiculous. Austin would never hurt me. These are from volleyball practice." I wanted to believe her, but something felt wrong. I started paying closer attention to their interactions. Austin was possessive, always needing to know where Stephanie was, who she was with, what she was doing. He'd show up unexpectedly when we were hanging out, acting friendly but clearly checking on her. Stephanie seemed nervous around him, always trying to please him, always worried about making him upset. I tried talking to her again, but she shut me down completely. Then something happened that changed everything. I was at Stephanie's house one Saturday when Austin called. She stepped into another room to talk, but I could hear her voice through the wall. She was apologizing, her tone desperate and pleading. "I'm sorry, I should have asked first. I know. It won't happen again." When she came back, her hands were shaking. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine," she said, but her smile was forced. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Stephanie, about the bruises, about the fear I'd seen in her eyes. I decided I had to do something, even if she got mad at me. The next day at school, I pulled Austin aside. "I know what you're doing to Stephanie," I said quietly. "You need to stop, or I'm going to tell someone." Austin's friendly expression vanished. He stepped closer, his voice low and threatening. "Stay out of it, Naomi. You have no idea what you're talking about." "I've seen the bruises," I pressed on. "I know you're hurting her." Austin laughed, but there was nothing funny about the sound. "Stephanie and I have a complicated relationship. She understands me. We understand each other. If you try to interfere, you'll just make things worse for her." The threat was clear. I went straight to the school counselor and reported what I'd seen. The counselor called Stephanie in. I waited outside the office, hoping Stephanie would finally tell the truth. When she emerged 30 minutes later, her face was red from crying. But she wasn't crying because she'd been relieved to finally get help. She was crying because she was furious with me. "How could you?" she screamed in the hallway. "You betrayed me. You had no right to tell anyone about my private business." I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen. The counselor asked me about the bruises. I told her the truth, that I got them from volleyball. Then she asked about Austin, and I told her we're perfectly happy together. "Stephanie, please," I begged. "He's hurting you." "I'm trying to help," I don't need your help. She was shaking with rage. Austin was right about you. You're jealous because you don't have a boyfriend. You can't stand seeing me happy. Her words felt like a physical blow. Austin had clearly prepared her for this, had planted the idea that I was jealous, had turned her against me before I could expose him. I'm not jealous, I said quietly. I'm scared for you. But Stephanie had already walked away. She stopped talking to me, completely. In the cafeteria, she sat with Austin and his friends, laughing loudly whenever I walked by. She spread rumors that I'd made up lies about Austin because I was obsessed with him. People started avoiding me, believing her version of events. I tried to save my best friend and ended up losing her instead. I felt helpless and alone, but I didn't give up. I kept watching, kept documenting the bruises I saw, kept hoping Stephanie would eventually see the truth. 2 months passed. Stephanie and I hadn't spoken since our fight. I'd catch her looking at me, sometimes in class, her expression unreadable. Part of me wanted to apologize just to get my friend back, but I knew I'd done the right thing. Then, one night at midnight, my phone buzzed. It was Stephanie. Can you come get me? Please. I'm at the park on Maple Street. Her voice was shaking. I grabbed my mom's car keys and drove there immediately. I found Stephanie sitting on a swing, her face swollen and bruised. Her lip was bleeding. Her shirt was torn. Oh my God! I whispered, running to her. What happened? She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. You were right. You were right about everything. I'm so sorry, Naomi. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. I held her while she cried, feeling relief mixed with horror. We need to get you to a hospital, I said. Stephanie shook her head frantically. No. No hospitals. No police. Please, Naomi. Just take me home. I wanted to argue, but she was barely holding herself together. I drove her to my house instead. My mom was a nurse, and I trusted her to help. Mom took one look at Stephanie and immediately started treating her injuries while asking gentle questions. Stephanie told us everything. Austin had been controlling and abusive from the beginning. The bruises were from him grabbing her, pushing her, sometimes hitting her when she disappointed him. Tonight, she told him she wanted to break up. He'd lost control completely, beating her worse than ever before. She'd managed to get away and run to the park. We need to report this, Mom said firmly. Stephanie panicked. No, you don't understand. Austin's father is a lawyer. His family has money and connections. If I report him, they'll destroy me. They'll make it seem like I'm lying, like I'm crazy. I just want to forget this ever happened. I grabbed her hands. Steph, he almost killed you tonight. What if he comes after you again? He won't, Stephanie insisted. I'll stay away from him. I'll transfer schools if I have to. Just please don't make me report this. Mom and I exchanged worried glances, but ultimately we couldn't force her. We convinced her to at least let Mom photograph her injuries and document everything, just in case. Stephanie stayed at my house that weekend. Slowly, our friendship started to rebuild. She apologized repeatedly for not believing me, for turning everyone against me, for letting Austin manipulate her. I was so stupid, she said. I thought I could handle it. I thought if I just tried harder to be what he wanted, he'd stop being angry. It's not your fault, I told her. Abusers are really good at making victims think they deserve the abuse. But you didn't deserve any of this. By Monday, Stephanie seemed more like herself. She decided to tell her parents everything and transfer to a different school. I was relieved. Maybe this nightmare was finally ending. But when Monday came, Stephanie didn't transfer schools. She showed up in the cafeteria, her bruises covered with makeup, and sat down next to Austin. My stomach dropped. I rushed over to their table. Stephanie, what are you doing? She looked up at me with cold eyes. Austin and I talked over the weekend. What happened Friday was a misunderstanding. We've worked things out. A misunderstanding? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He beat you. You have photographs of what he did. Austin put his arm around Stephanie, possessively. Naomi, you need to stop spreading lies about me. Stephanie already told you. She fell down some stairs on Friday. Right, babe? Stephanie nodded, avoiding my eyes. I fell. That's all. Naomi is exaggerating everything because she's obsessed with you, Austin. I felt like I'd been slapped. She was back under his control, probably threatened or manipulated into returning to him. And she was throwing me under the bus to protect him. I walked away, my mind racing. I realized then that I couldn't save Stephanie if she wasn't ready to be saved. But I could protect myself and make sure Austin couldn't hurt anyone else. I went to the principal's office and filed a formal complaint about Austin's behavior, providing dates and descriptions of what I'd witnessed. The principal said they'd investigate, but warned me that without Stephanie's cooperation, there wasn't much they could do. I felt defeated. Then something unexpected happened. A girl named Hannah approached me after school. "I heard you reported Austin," she said quietly. "I need to tell you something." Hannah explained that Austin's ex-girlfriend from his previous school had also been abused. That girl had tried to report him, but Austin's family had threatened legal action and forced her to recant. The girl had eventually transferred schools to escape him. "I have her contact information," Hannah said. "Maybe she'd be willing to talk now." I reached out to Austin's ex, whose name was Becca. She was hesitant at first, scared of Austin's family. But when I told her about Stephanie, she agreed to help. Becca sent me detailed documentation of Austin's abuse, photos of injuries, threatening text messages, even a recording of him admitting to hitting her. "I was too scared to fight his family's lawyers," Becca told me over the phone. "But if you're building a case against him, I want to help. He shouldn't be allowed to keep doing this." Armed with Becca's evidence and the documentation of Stephanie's injuries, I went back to the principal. This time, I also contacted the police. The school launched a formal investigation. The police opened a case. Austin was suspended pending the investigation's outcome. His parents hired expensive lawyers, just as Becca had predicted. They tried to discredit me, calling me a jealous troublemaker. They painted Austin as a model student being victimized by false accusations. Stephanie still refused to testify against him. In fact, she actively defended him, claiming I'd manufactured everything because I was obsessed with breaking them up. Her betrayal hurt worse than anything Austin had done to me. I'd risked everything to protect her, and she'd chosen her abuser over me. But then something shifted. Other girls started coming forward. Girls Austin had dated briefly, girls he'd harassed, girls who'd been too scared to speak up before. Each one had a story. Each one had evidence. The school's investigation uncovered a pattern of behavior that couldn't be dismissed. Austin's lawyers tried to settle quietly, offering money to make the complaints disappear. But the girls refused. They wanted accountability. During this time, I discovered something that made everything infinitely worse. I was at Stephanie's house. Her mom had let me in, still thinking we were best friends, when I found Stephanie's journal in her room. I know reading someone's journal is wrong, but something made me pick it up. What I found inside made my blood run cold. Stephanie hadn't just been protecting Austin. She'd been helping him. The journal detailed how Stephanie would identify vulnerable girls for Austin to target. She'd befriend them, gain their trust, then introduce them to Austin, setting them up. She kept detailed notes on each girl, their insecurities, their weaknesses, what made them easy to manipulate. I felt physically sick reading her words. This wasn't just about an abused girl protecting her abuser. Stephanie was actively participating in his predatory behavior. She got some twisted satisfaction from being his accomplice, from being special, enough to be his partner rather than his victim. One entry read, "Austin gets bored easily, so I need to keep finding new girls to keep him interested. As long as I'm useful, he won't get rid of me. As long as he has other targets, he goes easier on me." She'd weaponized her own abuse, using other girls as shields. Every bruise she prevented on herself meant bruises on someone else. The journal also revealed something even darker. Stephanie had been the one spreading rumors about me, systematically destroying my reputation to isolate me. She'd manipulated our mutual friends into choosing her side. She'd even considered ways to get me expelled from school. This wasn't the girl I'd been best friends with. This was someone I didn't recognize at all. I photographed every page of that journal. Then I had to make the hardest decision of my life. Exposing Stephanie meant destroying whatever remained of our friendship. It meant confirming to everyone that I really had lost my mind, because who would believe that sweet, victim Stephanie was actually a predator herself? But those other girls deserved justice. They deserved to know that Stephanie had deliberately set them up to be abused. I spent 3 days thinking about what to do. I reread the journal entries, looking for any other explanation, any way to justify her actions. There wasn't one. Stephanie knew exactly what she was doing. She'd written about it in cold, calculating detail. Finally, I made copies of the journal pages and turned them over to the police investigating Austin. I also gave copies to the principal and to Becca, the ex-girlfriend who'd been helping build the case. The reaction was immediate and explosive. The police brought Stephanie in for questioning. She denied everything at first, claiming I'd fabricated the journal entries. But handwriting analysis proved they were hers. When confronted with undeniable evidence, Stephanie finally broke down and confessed. She admitted to helping Austin target vulnerable girls. She admitted to manipulating situations to make herself look like the primary victim while enabling his abuse of others. She admitted that much of her own abuse had been exaggerated or self-inflicted to maintain sympathy and deflect suspicion. The truth came out that Stephanie had never been Austin's victim in the traditional sense. She'd been his willing partner. Yes, he'd hurt her sometimes, but often as part of their twisted dynamic, not as pure abuse. She'd used the appearance of being abused to gain trust, sympathy, and access to other vulnerable girls. The community was shocked. Parents were horrified. The school held emergency meetings. Girls who defended Stephanie felt betrayed and manipulated. I received apologies from people who'd believed her lies about me. But I felt no satisfaction. I felt hollow. The girl I'd loved like a sister had never really existed. Or maybe she had existed once, and something had corrupted her beyond recognition. Both Austin and Stephanie were expelled from school. Austin faced criminal charges for assault and harassment. His lawyers couldn't make all the evidence disappear, not with so many victims coming forward. Stephanie faced charges as an accessory to Austin's crimes. Her parents hired lawyers too, trying to argue that she'd been brainwashed and manipulated by Austin. There was some truth to that. Their relationship had clearly been toxic and codependent. But the journal proved she'd made conscious, calculated choices to hurt other people. The legal proceedings dragged on for months. I had to testify multiple times, explaining how I discovered the journal, detailing what I'd witnessed over the years. Each time I testified, Stephanie stared at me from across the courtroom with pure hatred in her eyes. Any remaining hope I'd had that our friendship could somehow survive died under that gaze. In the end, Austin was convicted and sentenced to juvenile detention until he turned 21, followed by probation. Stephanie received a lighter sentence, 2 years in a juvenile facility and mandatory therapy. The day before Stephanie was sentenced, she called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. "What do you want?" I asked. "I just wanted you to know that I hate you," Stephanie said, her voice eerily calm. "Everything that's happened is your fault. If you just minded your own business, none of this would have happened. You helped him hurt people," I said quietly. "You set up girls to be abused. How is that my fault?" "Because," she was screaming now, "I had everything under control. I had a system. Austin needed me, and I was safe as long as I was useful. You ruined everything by trying to be a hero. You weren't safe, Steph. You were trapped in something sick and wrong. You don't understand anything," she spat. "You've never understood. You were always so boring, so plain, so desperate to be a good person. I was special. Austin chose me. I mattered." The delusion in her voice was heartbreaking. "Goodbye, Stephanie," I said and hung up. That was the last time we spoke. Senior year ended without Stephanie or Austin. I graduated with decent grades despite everything that had happened. Some people still looked at me strangely, uncomfortable with a girl who'd exposed such darkness. Others treated me like a hero, which felt just as wrong. I wasn't a hero. I was just someone who'd done what needed to be done. That summer, I worked at a local coffee shop and tried to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Everything felt different now. I'd lost my innocence, my ability to trust easily, my belief that people were fundamentally good. One day, a woman came into the coffee shop and asked for me by name. "I'm Becca," she said. "Austin's ex. The one you contacted." I recognized her from her photos. "Hi. Thanks for helping with the case." Becca smiled sadly. "I should be thanking you. You did what I was too scared to do. You stood up to his family and made sure he faced consequences. Because of you, he can't hurt anyone else for a while. It was your evidence that made the difference, I said. Becca shook her head. It was your courage. You lost your best friend, your reputation, everything, just to protect people you barely knew. That takes real strength. We talked for over an hour. Becca was in college now, studying psychology with a focus on helping abuse victims. I want to make sure other girls don't go through what I did, she explained. I want to help them recognize the warning signs and get out before it's too late. Her words planted a seed in my mind. Maybe I could do something similar. Maybe I could turn this horrible experience into something meaningful. I started volunteering at a local women's shelter, helping with their teen programs. I shared my story with girls who were dealing with abusive relationships, helping them understand that leaving was possible, that they deserved better. It was hard work, emotionally draining, but it felt purposeful. For the first time since everything had happened, I felt like I was moving forward instead of just surviving. I applied to colleges with strong psychology programs. I wanted to become a counselor specializing in teen relationships and abuse prevention. 2 years passed. I was in college, doing well in my classes, making new friends carefully and slowly. I'd learned to trust again, though not as easily as before. I dated occasionally, but I was cautious, always watching for red flags, always ready to walk away at the first sign of manipulation. One evening, I received a message on social media from an account I didn't recognize. This is Stephanie. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to talk to you. Please. I stared at the message for days before responding. Part of me wanted to delete it and move on. But another part was curious about what she wanted. I'm listening, I finally wrote back. Stephanie's response came immediately, like she'd been waiting. I'm out now. I finished my sentence and my mandatory therapy. I wanted to apologize for everything. I know sorry isn't enough, but I need you to know that I understand now what I did. How wrong it was. How much I hurt people. I read her words skeptically. What do you want from me? Nothing. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that the therapy helped me see how twisted my thinking had become. I genuinely believed I was doing what I needed to survive, Stephanie continued. I convinced myself that helping Austin hurt others was somehow protecting myself. I couldn't see how wrong that was. I blamed you for ruining my life when you were actually trying to save it. Her words sounded sincere, but I'd learned to be careful about trusting Stephanie. Are you actually better, or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? There was a long pause before she responded. Honestly, I don't know. I'm working on it. I'm still in therapy. I have to check in with a counselor twice a week. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did and make sure I never become that person again. What about the girls you helped Austin hurt? I asked. Have you apologized to them? I tried. Most of them don't want to hear from me. I don't blame them. But I wrote letters to all of them explaining what I did and why, and apologizing. Whether they read those letters is up to them. I thought about how to respond. Part of me wanted to tell Stephanie to leave me alone forever. But another part recognized that she was at least trying to take responsibility. I'm glad you're getting help, I finally wrote. But I don't think we can be friends again. Too much has happened. I know, Stephanie replied. I'm not asking for that. I just needed you to know that you were right about everything. I was the villain in this story, not the victim. It took me a long time to accept that, but I'm trying to do better now. We ended the conversation there. I didn't block her, but I didn't continue talking to her either. Some relationships, once broken, can't be repaired. Stephanie and I had too much history, too much pain. Maybe someday in the distant future we could have a civil conversation, but we'd never be best friends again. That chapter of my life was closed. I focused on moving forward. I excelled in my college courses, particularly in psychology and counseling. I continued volunteering at the women's shelter. I built a life based on helping others rather than on a single toxic friendship. One day, I was giving a presentation at a high school about recognizing unhealthy relationships when a girl approached me afterward. Thank you, she said quietly. My boyfriend has been doing some of the things you talked about. I didn't realize it was abuse until hearing you speak. We talked for 30 minutes. I gave her resources, contact information for counselors, and encouraged her to reach out for help. As she walked away, I felt a profound sense of purpose. This was why I'd exposed Stephanie's secret. Not for revenge, Not to hurt her, but to protect others. Every girl I helped made the pain worthwhile. My story eventually became somewhat known in communities focused on teen relationship abuse. I was invited to speak at schools and youth groups, sharing what I'd learned. I always told the full truth, how I tried to save my best friend, how she'd betrayed me, how exposing her secret had destroyed our friendship but protected others. Some people criticized me, saying I'd betrayed Stephanie's trust by reading her journal and sharing its contents. Sometimes protecting others is more important than protecting secrets, I'd respond. Stephanie's secret involved ongoing harm to vulnerable people. Exposing it was the right choice, even though it cost me dearly. 3 years after everything happened, I got a call from Becca. "I wanted you to know something," she said. "I'm graduating with my psychology degree, and I've been accepted to a master's program in counseling." "That's amazing," I told her genuinely. "You're going to help so many people." "I couldn't have done it without you," Becca said. "You showed me that one person really can make a difference, even when it's hard. I wanted to thank you for that." After we hung up, I thought about everything that had happened since that first day of 6th grade when I'd invited the new girl to sit with me at lunch. I'd lost my best friend, my innocence, and my blind trust in others. But I'd gained purpose, strength, and the knowledge that I could survive anything. Stephanie had taught me that sometimes the people we trust most are capable of unimaginable betrayal. But she'd also inadvertently taught me that exposing evil, even when it's wrapped in the face of someone you love, is always the right choice. I finally exposed my best friend's darkest secret to everyone, and yes, it destroyed our friendship forever. But it also saved lives, brought justice to victims, and started me on a path to helping others. Would I make the same choice again, knowing everything it would cost me? Without hesitation. Because some secrets are too dangerous to keep, some friendships are too toxic to preserve, and some truths, no matter how painful, need to be brought into the light. That's the lesson Stephanie taught me, though not the way she intended. And it's a lesson I'll spend the rest of my life sharing with others who need to hear it.